Hello and welcome to Business Reporter, where I'm joined by Ian Dowd and Jonathan Ellard of NGA Human Resources, where we'll be discussing the battle for talent. There's a war out there for talent. Who decides the winner?
So the winner will be the organisation that can align its people and its resources to execute its strategy. So the people who can attract, engage, inspire and develop their talent and align that with their strategic intent and execute on it. So there are a few things that are important in doing this. One is having a really strong employee value proposition so that people want to come and work for you. It's a bit like trying to attract a customer. You have to convince them why they should go with you and not a competitor. The other thing is understanding the skills and the talent you need in the organisation so you can attract the right kind. So a skills inventory to work out what you have at the moment versus what you need is really important. And having a culture that uses empirical data and evidence to drive that war, to win that war, and to drive that initiative towards attracting and retaining the talent that you need.
Yeah, for the HR function, when looking at how a business creates value, why its reason for being is, then this is where the HR function can bring great value and competitive advantage in managing that talent effectively. For me, I think the ancient saying of a house divided cannot stand comes in, where working together internally in an organisation and then externally with a partner brings great results and means the organisation can stand.
Obviously, knowledge is clearly important in this area. How do you gather that knowledge?
Some of the knowledge is already there, it's just untapped. So in HR there's a lot of transactional activity that goes on. You have starters, leavers and a lot of processing, but that data can lay there dormant if it isn't brought to life and used. So it's really important to get it in one single place and get it in a form where you can inquire into it and drive actionable insight, drive decision making, and that's really the way to tap into the knowledge that may well already exist in the organisation.
And the other thing you can do with that knowledge is make sure that you're running standard processes on an easy to consume platform for the end user, so that knowledge is devolved and passed out right to the nth point of contact where data comes into the business.
Yeah.
So has HR generally done enough with data and analytics?
So if you compare it to other departments in an organisation, to sales, marketing, operations, finance, they make much better use of data in their day-to-day lives and much better decision making based on that data. So one example, I was talking to an HR director recently who wanted to know how many people work for her, how many people in the organisation, asked her assistant to have a look into it. Her assistant was like, yeah, I'll be back in half an hour. Came back, I need a bit more time. Came back a month later and said, I don't know. I thought I knew, and then I found a load more people, and actually the answer's changed since you first asked me because some people have joined and some people have left. So that's a very, very bad example of where HR and analytics unite, but there's some really good examples as well.
And on that basis of good examples, I would say no and yes, because we find in our research that around 49% of businesses are using employee self-service to devolve processes and data capture to their employees, and around 41% are using business analytics to make data-driven decisions for their organisation. So I would say that there's a long way to go, over 50%, but in the coming years with the advent of public-facing technology for people to work from home on and mobile devices, that will only grow.
Before we move on, Ian, you mentioned some good examples of
Yes.
successful data analytics. Could you expand that?
Yeah, lots of them. So let me give you one particular example, and this is where an HR director looked at why people leave an organisation, why people stay. It was a change in their role. Every 18 to 24 months, they either had a new position or some new responsibilities or a new project, something different and new to work on. And the people who didn't were more likely to leave the organisation. So it was a very clever use of data and analytics to manage attrition and to manage employee loyalty and keep the talent and the people they wanted to keep in the organisation.
So what does NGA bring to the table?
A number of things. So software, services and also outsourcing if people choose to take that route. So NGA Resource Link is an end-to-end solution that manages the entire employee lifecycle, from recruitment to onboarding to paying to managing, developing talent, learning and development, right through to offboarding at the appropriate point. And it houses all of the data in a single repository with a suite of standard reports over the top. So it makes it very easy for HR people and line of business managers to inquire on the data and make informed decisions.
And for me, when NGA provides business process as a service on our intellectual property, i.e. ResourceLink software, we take away a lot of the pains of a business and give them the ability to just make informed strategic decisions based on the data coming from the front end capture.
The battle for talent seems never ending. How do you see it playing out over the next, say, 5 years?
It will intensify. The scope and the scale and the speed of change will just accelerate. So it's really important that organisations take steps to use data in a way that will help them within their HR department and help the organisation as well. The other thing that will change is that the workforce will become much more diverse. There's a new generation of workers coming in that are much more technologically savvy, and for the first time there'll be 4, sometimes 5 generations working side by side. And that is a fantastic opportunity, but also it gives HR people some challenges in the terms of the way to relate to people, the way to communicate, and the way to get them engaged in the organisation. NGA published some research based on how to motivate and what the expectations of a diverse workforce are, and we found some really interesting differences between the generations and not what you may expect. So when it came to having access to the latest technology, it was actually Generation X and the baby boomers had more of an expectation, and the younger generation, the millennials, had less of an expectation. So it's important to use data and an empirical approach to this, so you don't make decisions based on assumptions, you make it based on the evidence before you.
And I think for me, you know, our NGA's own research has shown us that around 75% of business leaders believe that they have a skills shortage. So there's a talent issue in their organisation. So whether that drops 5 points or increases 5 or 10 points in the coming 5 or 10 years, it's going to be intensifying the issue around managing talent effectively.
It's a really good point that Jonathan makes, and of those 75%, 90% think that skills gap is holding back their growth. So the organisation can't grow because they have a significant skills gap. So it's a very significant problem.
Ian Dowd and Jonathan Ellard from NGA, many thanks.
Thank you.